Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town Board of the Town of Ossining regular meeting for Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. My name is Dana Levenberg. I'm the supervisor of the Town of Ossining. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could have our flag graphic, that would be great. I don't know, we don't have, okay, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, I have to quiet my house down. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And I think now we're going to just start with a roll call, please. Martha, want to do the roll call? You can just raise your hands.
1 second. Yeah, so sorry. There was a little glitch over here. Hold on. Councilmember Feldman?
Present.
Councilmember Shaw?
Present.
Councilmember Wiltshire?
Present.
And Councilmember Meyer?
Present. Present.
And Supervisor Levenberg?
Present. Thank you so much. Okay. We're going to go into announcements. I did neglect to ask if everybody would just observe a short moment of silence for all those we have lost to COVID in the last week. We continue to see numbers rising, many people who are close to us, and we want to make sure that we just take a moment, which is the least that we can do, for all of the horrific deaths that we're experiencing in our community, and continue to have our flags at half staff. So please just observe a moment of silence for all those we've lost. Thank you. So before I get started with my announcements, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to all of the teachers and administrators today who were part of the Ossining Elementary School and AMD Middle School townwide driving parade that took place starting at around 3:30 right outside my house by the high school. They waved to all of their students who are missing them so much, and vice versa. It's so hard for our students and teachers to be away from one another for so long. This was a great way to show some mutual appreciation for the hard work that everyone is doing to continue teaching and learning outside of our school facilities. Thanks to our Ossining Police, Fire, and OVAC escorts as well for making it really feel like a parade and sharing the love. And also a huge shout out also to all of our Briarcliff teachers and to our students in Briarcliff School District. We know that everybody is experiencing tough times these days, missing all of the great events that are supposed to be taking place right around now. And we just want to say, keep up the good work and the very, very hard work at this time. Once again, I want to start my announcements with my weekly reminder to respond to the 2020 U.S. Census. And I'm going to share my screen, I hope, effectively, which is this, to show you that, is it working? Yes, it's working, I think. We found out yesterday that the response rate for the town of Ossining is about 55.3%. For the village of Ossining, they're at 48.6%. And for the village of Briarcliff Manor, 66.3%. Come on now, Ossining Town and Village. We got some catching up to do. And for everyone, our goal is 100% response rate, as you can see from this lovely thermometer that was created by Jamie Hoffman in the village of Ossining. So we want to get those responses in today. All you need to do is to go to my2020census.gov to respond. An accurate count in this census means we would receive our fair share of federal, state, and county funding, which includes funding for our schools. Very critical. I also wanted to share an interesting thought that was discussed on yesterday's stakeholders conference call with Westchester County and municipal leaders. Dr. Shirlita Amler, who's the Commissioner of Westchester County Department of Health, was asked a question regarding the high per capita count of coronavirus cases in the village of Ossining. And Dr. Amler pointed out that the number of per capita cases in our community reveals two facts. First, of course, a high rate of the disease, but we also know that much of that is due to our high rate of testing, thanks to Open Door, but also that our community was dramatically undercounted in the 2010 census. An accurate census count is important for many reasons and will help us understand phenomena like the pandemic we are currently facing. So please respond and remind your friends, family, and neighbors to do so as well. So much for that lovely graphic. I think I just close it. Does that work? Oh, no, I'm gonna, sure. Okay, perfect. Yay. new technology at work. Since we had our last town board meeting, we have shared via our email blast, Facebook account, and press release more information regarding relief programs available to taxpayers who may be finding it difficult to pay their town and county taxes, which are due this week, April 30th, due to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Although the deadline for payments remains April 30th, 2020, penalties for late payments have been substantially reduced for all taxpayers to 0.5% if payment is received in May 2020, so up until May 30th, and 1% if payment is received in June or through July 15th, 2020. So additionally, for those who qualify for, and just to remind people, an average town county tax is somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. So if you pay $4,000 in town and county taxes, that 0.5% would be $20, and the 1% would be $40. Additionally, for those who qualify for a hardship waiver based upon criteria established by the county executive, penalties will be fully waived for payments received by July 15th, 2020. Tonight, the town of Ossining will be formally opting into this opportunity pursuant to Executive Order 202.22. That means that individual taxpayers, the criteria for hardship are: 1, you must be enrolled in the New York State STAR program. Number 2, your taxes cannot be paid via escrow. And 3, you certify a negative impact to your income has occurred as set forth in the certification form, basically as a result of COVID. For taxpayers with rental properties who must own only 6 or fewer residential rental properties, you certify that 50% of your rents have not been paid to you as a result of tenants' loss of employment due to COVID-19, and taxes for that property are not being paid by escrow. For business owners that own the property they operated out of, the net income must be under $1 million in 2019, and they must certify that there's been a negative impact on their income as a result of COVID-19. In order to qualify for a hardship penalty waiver of late fees, you must meet the criteria and swear to the accuracy of your request by completing a certification form. No additional documentation is required. Hardship certification forms are now available on the town's website, townofossining.com. We ask that you do not submit your certification form until you are prepared to make payment in full. You must submit your completed certification form with payment to the Ossining Tax Office at our offices at 16 Croton Avenue via mail. As a reminder, if you are in a position to pay your taxes on time, please do so. And we thank so many of you who already have done so, even at this very tough time. The town and county and other special districts and entities we collect taxes for rely on this income in order to provide you with the many essential services that are perhaps more important now than ever. You can pay your taxes online at townofossining.com via U.S. mail, or by dropping your payment, which is also by U.S. mail, in the dedicated mail slot at the Ossining Post Office. So because this is still a mail slot, you have to still put postage on your envelope. You put a stamp on your envelope. If you get that envelope in to the Ossining mail slot specially dedicated for tax receipts before 5 o'clock, it will be postmarked for that same day, and after 5 o'clock will be postmarked for the following day. Only payments received or postmarked by April 30th without hardship certification will be considered timely and not be assessed a penalty. Please do not bring your tax payments to 16 Croton Avenue. Our offices remain closed to the public in order to protect you and our staff from possible transmission of the coronavirus. If you have questions, the best way to reach our tax office right now is via email. And that is to hperlowitz, PERLOWITZ as in zebra, at townofaustining.com or taxreceiver@townofaustining.com. You can also call the tax office at 914-762-8790, but please be patient. If they do not pick up right away, please leave a message and somebody will get back to you. As you can imagine, call volume is particularly high right now. I know many of you also have many questions regarding the preliminary change of assessment notices that were sent out in the mail last week. We are going to be discussing this in depth during our departmental report with Assessor Fernando Gonzalez, but I would like also to encourage you to please schedule an informal review with Tyler Technologies if you have questions or concerns about your preliminary assessment. This process is essential to maintain our tax roll at 100% of market value. And it was first set in motion in 2015. Now, for this review, we've started working on this round of revaluation months ago to maintain the accuracy of our tax roll. The effort that was made after 40 years to get our tax roll up to full value is important, and if we do not continue to do so, then we're going to backtrack and be in a position where our tax roll is not at 100% value, and you don't really know what your property is worth, and we get all out of whack. So please bear in mind that an increase in assessed value does not necessarily mean a proportionate increase in taxes. It may not even mean an increase in taxes at all. Your tax bill is determined by a number of factors, including the budgets that are set by each taxing jurisdiction. That is all I have to say about that for now. I'm looking forward to discussing this with Fernando and Steve from Tyler Technologies a little bit later in the evening. As you know, stopping the spread of coronavirus remains our top priority right now in the town, and that means continuing to observe social distancing practices, wearing masks in public when you may not be able to keep from within 6 feet of another person, holding our meetings from remote locations, keeping buildings closed to the public, etc. In Ossining, the number of positive confirmed cases as of today total was at 119 for the unincorporated town, 792 for the village of Ossining, and 72 in the village of Briarcliff. However, these numbers are cumulative and they are not reflective of active cases necessarily. It's likely that our number of active cases might be 50% less than reported today if you subtract out the number of people who would have already recovered. We're beginning to see encouraging statistics in New York State, as I know you've all been following, as well as in Westchester County, with decreased active cases, decreased hospitalizations. And this seems to indicate we are moving in the right direction, and our efforts to remain socially distant have been paying off. We must remain vigilant in our efforts and closely follow the direction of our state leaders, our county leaders, for incremental ways that we may be able to return to some sort of normal within the coming weeks and months, but really carefully do so as we monitor our numbers. We continue to work closely with our partners in county government under the direction of New York State to make sound decisions to protect our entire community's health and safety. New York State and Westchester received a large number of cloth masks donated to the government by Hanes brand, and we have been asked by the county to distribute those to essential workers, not our healthcare workers, not our first responders. Tomorrow at noon, County Executive George Latimer is scheduled to deliver them to Ossining. They are not medical grade, as I mentioned, not for medical professionals who are getting their masks elsewhere. However, they will offer much needed supply of washable, reusable masks to our food and delivery service workers, taxi drivers, grocery store workers, child care facilities, volunteers, and other essential services who must interact with the public. These will be available to any essential business or organization upon request. We've created an easy Google form for these requests, which will be available on our town website after the delivery. You can call Karina Scorsia in my office at 762-6002 or reach her by email at scorcia@townofaustining.com. The masks are being distributed by appointment only, and there are limited number available. So we ask everyone to help essential service organizations and businesses by letting them know that these masks will be available after tomorrow. And we will post the link on the town and the village website and on Facebook, because we're doing this in collaboration with the Village of Ossining. Finally, please visit our website for up-to-date information about town services, as well as a comprehensive resource guide, which was developed with help of the Village of Ossining Manager's Office and other community partners. Please also do your best to continue to patronize businesses that are offering remote services and opportunities, deliveries and takeout food and other products, and anything else you may need that is available safely. This is the best way to keep our economy going while still on pause. If we are missing any businesses or resources you know of on our pages, or you have any trouble accessing any of these resources, please do not hesitate to call my office directly at 762-6001. And with that, I think I'm turning this over to Fernando for his departmental report. I have asked Mr. Gonzalez to join us for a departmental report, since we have been receiving so many questions regarding the preliminary change of assessment notices that went out in the mail last week. Just as a reminder, this has been a process that has been in place for over a year. We also have with us tonight Steve Bessio from Tyler Technologies. I am hopeful that this conversation will answer many questions about this process, where we are in the process, why we are continuing with it now, and how you can help us make sure we get the numbers right. Fernando and Steve, the Zoom floor is yours.
Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Dana, can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you. Sorry, I muted myself so that I could hear you well.
Okay.
I'm on mute, but yes, I can hear you well. Do you want me to?
Okay, I hear
stay
you.
off
I
mute?
hear you now. I thought
I was going to try to mute my family a little bit so that people could hear everybody. But I'm going to mute me so you guys don't hear all my background noise, okay?
Okay. So good evening. As you know, in 2016, we did a townwide reassessment after 42 plus years of not having done a reassessment. That was a massive undertaking where we had to update all the property inventories, sales, and make sure that all the information for each and every property, including exempted properties and village-owned, town-owned, county and state-owned properties, were accurate. And the only way to place an accurate valuation on a property is to make sure that you have the accurate data. So back then we requested interior inspections. We accomplished over 60% rate of interior inspections, and we analyzed the sales, created a model, and using computer-aided mass appraisals technology, we place a value on each and every property. We reviewed the values by street, and of course went through this same process, which was very invasive to some people, but on the other hand, we brought the assessment roll up to date, and we are able to levy taxes more accurately. Since then, in order to maintain the roll, every year we did sales ratio analysis, where we adjusted the neighborhood based on a ratio that we found to be applicable based on sales during a specific period of time as prescribed by law. As an agreement with the state of New York and following best recommended practices, we agreed to do a cyclical reassessment process in which on the 5th year, we would go ahead and do a complete reappraisal, which basically means, again, doing a new computer-aided mass appraisal model and driving a value to each and every property based on this model. And this is the 5th year, and that's what we're doing, and that's why we call it a reappraisal instead of a reassessment. Of course, we had most of the data was accurate, but we had to verify that data. We sent requests to every property owner to verify our information to make sure that we had the correct inventory on every property. Many did, some didn't, but we continued on utilizing all the technology we have at hand, such as sales, building department, GIS, and pictometry in order to update the information. So this year, this process basically places a value on each and every property. The ratio increases, decreases, or changes or no changes that we did in the last 4 years basically says that this same ratio, whether it's a 2% increase or decrease or no change, apply to every property equally. And as you know, real estate, the real estate market is a very local phenomenon, and some properties increase or decrease in values differently based on what's happening in the marketplace. So on the fifth year, such a year such as this model basically brings all that up to date. And as a result, when we say that some neighborhood increase or decrease by 5%, that doesn't mean that everybody had the same percentage. Some people may have seen a drop. Some people may have seen a 15, 20% increase. Some people may have seen a 15, 20% decline. But the important thing is that every property is valued individually based on comparable sales similar to the subject. So that's where we are at now. We were supposed to have sent out these preliminary change of assessment notices last month, but due to the emergency, we delayed it, and we had to act because there has been no change in the prescribed assessment calendar, and we have to basically follow the law, do our job, and continue with the process. As a reminder, the 2020 roll is utilized for the 2021 tax bills. As of now, there has been no change in the assessment calendar, and the filing of the tentative roll is scheduled for June 1st. As far as neighborhood adjustments, I did provide to the town board, and is posted on the website, each neighborhood and the average adjustment per neighborhood. Some neighborhoods went down, some neighborhoods didn't change, but many did go up. Neighborhoods that were affected by the new SALT, which is the tax laws that limited the deductibility of real estate taxes, the high-end neighborhoods, they went down because people are not buying those properties. However, most neighborhoods in Austin are very affordable compared to the rest of Westchester County, and they have very little inventory, and as a result, the market values for those affordable neighborhoods have been going up at incredible numbers. Even as we speak, for example, the rental market, it's crazy. There's hardly any available apartments in Austin to be had, because a lot of people are trying to move out of the city as we speak. And of course, as you know, a lot of the market in these suburban communities in Westchester, Rockland, most of Putnam and Nassau County, the market is a lot of people from the city moving to the suburbs to raise a family, etc. And as a result, the affordable homes have been increasing in value. Now, as far as to give you some statistics, the average residential increase townwide is 5%. The 1, 2, and 3 family average increase is 6%. And condo, which are valued differently than 1, 2, and 3 families. They're valued as if they were apartment rentals. They went up on average 5%. Commercial properties went up an average of 3%. Overall, townwide is a 5% increase, which means basically that if your increase is 5% or less, and the budgets were to remain the same, you should not see an increase in taxes. However, there are many factors that will, come into play. This is the preliminary numbers. When we file the tentative roll, we would have more specific numbers then, as far as the gain in taxable assessed value. But overall, the assessment roll for the town of Essening, we are looking at an increase of about $200 million in increase in assessed value. So basically, to answer one of the questions that has been posted or asked in the past few days, what will happen if this emergency situation kills the real estate market and everybody's values goes down? Of course, as soon as we complete this roll, finalize the roll in September, we will start working on next year's roll, analyzing sales in order to capture the market data and make the proper adjustments. So if the market was to drop in value, we would of course adjust the values next year to reflect the new market conditions. Now, another question that was asked is, what happens when everybody's market values drop? Basically, the assessment roll or the pie by which we divvy up the levy will decrease. So as a result, the tax rates would increase because there are less taxable assessed value to divvy up the tax burden. On the contrary, as we have experienced since the reassessment in 2016, every year we have had increases in taxable assessed value, not only because of market condition changes, which we call equity, but also because of physical changes, which is like new construction, additions, and as a result, many of the taxing jurisdictions have seen that the tax rates have not increased, or if they increase by very little. So if and when the market crashes and we have to lower the assessed value for most properties, then the effect will be to the contrary, meaning most likely we'll see an increase in the tax rate in order to maintain services, provided that the levy remains the same. As far as shifts, when it comes to commercial, residential, and the ratio of commercial residential to condo, it basically has remained the same. There is going to be some minor adjustments as we go through this process of informal reviews and agreements. But basically, they have remained the same because the condos went up 5%, 1, 2, and 3 families 6%, and commercial properties on average 3%. Another question that was asked, in the past, we always said, well, we would see a third of the properties will go down, a third will go up, and a third will remain the same. The preliminary statistic that we have been able to pull, because remember, this is not finalized, this is just the preliminary. We see that 67% of the properties remain between a minus 10% and a plus 10%, with 25% increasing from between 10% and 25%, and 5% decreasing, minus 10% to minus 25%. So that is the breakdown. as we see it now, that if there are any changes after we finalize the roll, it would be minimal. We don't expect a big shift because of the changes related to the grievances or the informal reviews. Trying to think what other questions I can address as we go through this. So as prescribed the law, the valuation date for the roll is July 1st of the previous year. So for the 2020 roll, the valuation date is July 1st, 2019. So of course, these numbers do not reflect the current conditions in the marketplace, which is of course that not a lot of things are moving because of the emergency. However, there are still some closings going on because those deals were negotiated before, and there are listings coming into the marketplace. And while there is no physical showings of property, of course, utilizing technologies, realtors have been able to continue to do business. However, the public is not really into it, and the general sense is that the market is going to really take a hit if unless we reopen this economy soon. So it remains to be seen when you think that way about what is going on right now with this emergency. However, the reality is that a lot of people are looking to move into neighborhoods such as Ossining, whether it be renters or single-family properties, because that has always been the market. And there is, of course, now a strong desire from many people to live highly populated areas such as the city of New York. One of the questions is why are we seeing an average increase in 6%, and that is because of in 1, 2, and 3 family homes is because of the market. Again, the ratio adjustments that we did in the last 4 years was based on sales for that neighborhood. And while we apply those adjustments equally to all the properties within the neighborhoods, what we do this time when we do a new computer-aided mass appraisal is to place a value on each property, because typically, for example, a raised rent does not go up or down in value at the same rate as an older 1920 home, or for example, a 2-family. And of course, the rate of increases and desirability of neighborhoods changes every year depending as to what's happening in the marketplace. What we saw in the last few years, particularly more so this year, is that the small 2- and 3-family home became very desirable, and they went up in value tremendously. And neighborhoods such as Indian Village, people coming out of the city were paying ridiculous numbers for small capes with 2, 3 bedrooms, 15 to 1,800 square foot homes. That neighborhood, for example, Indian Village, has seen an increase every year. I think every year. Basically, we are charged to measure the market and what the market reaction is to situations. We will be measuring the market reaction to the current emergency, and of course, that will be taken into consideration for next year. I'm trying to read some questions as we go along. Yes, again this year, some properties in the estate areas saw a decrease again because of the effect of the deductibility of taxes. We saw some of that last year, but most of it is reflected this year. There were corrections on some of the high-end plan unit developments because of the tax situation. And on the other hand, we have seen other plan unit development that continue to be highly desirable, such as Hudson Watch, and the sale prices have been continuing to climb. As to address the condo market, as you know, condos are valued as if they were rental properties. And in Ossining, overall, particularly in the village of Ossining, there is not many apartments available to rent. The few new units that were built in the last few years have been absorbed into the market pretty rapidly. This emergency pandemic situation has made the market even more tight, meaning that there is less apartments available now than they were at the end of last year in the village of Ossining. And in the town, of course, town outside and the village of Briarcliff Manor, there is not many apartments to begin with. Of course, there are units that are rented in some of the co-ops and condominium complexes, and we have seen an increase in the asking rent, a steady increase in the asking rent, and a continued demand. So the increase in the condo values and the apartment building values reflect that. And of course, a lot of the smaller homes in affordable neighborhoods saw a sizable increase. For example, in the neighborhood, the Hollow in the village, that area, and the south end of the village, the Sparta area, Revolutionary Road, you can see the sales. By the way, we have posted the sales in our website, and the sales are posted there, and you can see them, and you will see they're listed by street name, and you could see sales in your neighborhood, and you can get a sense when you see that a similar home to yours, what they are selling for in the last couple of years.
Fernando, why you're looking. So what if there weren't any sales in your neighborhood? What happens then? Where do they go next? Where does Tyler go next?
If there are no sales in your neighborhood, you try to go to another neighborhood that has similar market conditions. One of the big determinants of a neighborhood is school district. Of course, we would never cross school district in order to find a comparable sale. Many of the neighborhoods, most of the neighborhoods had sales in order to come up with a model to drive values. Now, after this process is done and values are assigned to each property, we do a review by street and by neighborhood, and that was, the last few months in 2019, when people were calling in because they saw a strange car parked in front of their house looking. And that is the process. And basically what you're trying to do with the street by street review is to find what we call in an appraiser's jargon is outliers, meaning properties that do not conform to the neighborhood or values that are obviously off. For example, you go into you look at a neighborhood which is mostly 1,800 square foot Cape Cod, and then you have this one property, and these Cape Cod style homes are valued at 450, and then you have this one property that is valued at 700, and when you drive, you right away we'll make a determination there's something wrong here or that explains it. Because you'll drive to it and maybe they put a second floor and has converted this home into a colonial, which is now 3,800 square feet, and hence the value. Though that home is not typical for that area, but there are other similarly styled colonials with similar square footage in other neighborhoods that would be more comparable to that home. So that is the process. And of course, you know, we review every property, every neighborhood. Not only do the Tyler staff review it, but my staff review it. Remember, and I'll remind everybody, while we hire Tyler Technologies to do this process and provide the technology and the driving force, this is our role. We are responsible. This is not Tyler. This is the Town of Austin Assessor's Office. We review every property and we approve every value. So you know, we don't just say, well, Tyler did it. No, we did it. So we were involved. We are involved in every step of the way, and we will continue to be involved. And we are the ones also that defend these values when we have to go to court or trial in some cases. So it's a process. It's time consuming, and we have deadlines to meet. And of course, the assessment calendar is prescribed by law. And until that law changes, we have to continue to do our job and meet the required dates.
Okay, so a couple more quick questions, and then I'm going to address the required dates question.
Okay.
Or issue. Somebody had asked the question about how you determine neighborhoods because they didn't think that their neighborhood made any sense. So the neighborhood, half of the neighborhood was in an area that was walkable to the Scarborough train station, and the other part where they lived wasn't walkable, so they felt like their value was shouldn't have been as high as something that was walkable to the train station. How is that? How are those neighborhoods, you know, areas determined to be all in the same area?
We basically we didn't feel this year that we needed to make any changes to neighborhoods. In the last few years, we did move some properties from amongst neighborhoods. The neighborhood delineation process, you can find that document on the assessor's page on the town's website. But basically, typically we would like to delineate a neighborhood where everybody has shared the same characteristics such as walkability, style, year built, etc. But that is not always the case. As you know, particularly in older neighborhoods, we have a mix of styles, a mix of condition and age. And many times, although a characteristic such as walkability is important, and it's a good determination of how fast and how much people would pay for a property, many times it's better to leave those few homes within that neighborhood because we're not going to find the other neighborhoods are going to drive values that are even worse. So in those cases, that's what the process of review tries to find, those outliers where you may have a neighborhood where everybody is in a nice residential neighborhood, but you may have 5 houses on a busy road, and those 5 houses that are on a double yellow line, high traffic, busy road, we would then adjust their value to reflect that external obsolescence of high traffic. In some cases, some homes may be next to a business or next to a noisy business or next to a gas station. And of course, those are situations that we try to find and address them by making an adjustment to compensate for that.
Just to be clear, this part of the process is also what drives the tentative role that you eventually are going to file, which is these informal interviews with Tyler, correct?
Yes.
So that's
So-
part of getting it right, is
That is
having
correct.
those. So if somebody says, well, this is crazy, I just bought my property a year ago and it's gone up 20%, and there's no way it's gone up 20%. And I know that because I have comparables of sales. So I'm going to go sit down and meet with Tyler and I'm going to show them this, and then they might adjust that value down.
That is correct. So the process is this. The informal review, the idea is to provide the homeowners who best know their property an opportunity to discuss the value with an appraiser who's an expert, and for them to bring to our attention anything that we have missed. So let's say, for example, that same house that I was describing that is next to a gas station, maybe we missed that. And that house should not have the same value as the house behind it that is facing a nice residential quiet street. So through this informal process, Tyler will make a determination and make adjustments. And then we will send again, if there is a change in value, we will send a notice of determination by Tyler, and we will send another change of assessment notice, whether it's to increase the value or decrease the value. Most often, of course, is decreasing the value prior to the filing of the tentative roll, which is typically June 1st. So that is the process. And then after that, if the property owner is not satisfied, of course, they will always have the ability to seek administrative review by the Board of Assessment Review by filing a grievance, which is that RP 524 mentioned in the notice. And after that, if the Board of Assessment Review still does not meet with their agreement, they can seek judicial review by filing a small claim with the courts, or an Article 7 certiorari for commercial properties with the courts. I'm sorry, a small claim or a SCAR with the courts for residential owner-occupied properties, and an Article 7 certiorari for commercial properties.
I'm going to ask this question, even though you already answered it. I'm going to ask it one more time.
Okay.
So we did a full revow in 2016. Every year we've basically tried to keep up to the best of our ability. Now we're back to doing another sort of full-blown revow. Why would we see 20% increases in some properties? Why would there be such a big swing in value for properties? They've been if we've just been sort of keeping up, it seems like there should only be a minor increase, not such a huge increase in any property.
It could be many factors. It could be inventory changes that were not captured because there was no inspection, or because we never had the improvement were there, or were recently legalized in some cases. It's the market, and it's a little bit of catching up because the adjustments that we did for prior years may not have been applicable to that property. So, for example, in some neighborhoods, we determined some years that the increase was 1 or 2%. But really what was driving those values were, for example, the old-style home. And we applied those values to everybody. And not all the homes in that neighborhood are old-style. And then when we do a more detailed analysis, as we did now, and when the model price value, which styles is one of the main conditions, we realized that, yeah, the old-style homes were going up by 2% in that neighborhood, but the capes have been going up by 8% every year. So now we have all this catching up to do. And that's where you see that in many instances are recent sales, recent additions, and in many cases with recent sales, we discovered that, for example, the condition that we had was incorrect. We had the property as in average condition, meanwhile it was in excellent condition. And it could be a combination of all these factors. Again, and that's why when you do an appraisal for a finance transaction, such as a mortgage for a purchasing a home or a home equity loan, an appraiser does one appraisal report specific to that property, and comparable sales to that subject are used for that reason. What we do in interim years, as we call them, between reappraisals, is apply a factor equally to all the homes in the neighborhood, although not all the homes in the neighborhood went up or down at the same rate.
Okay. Got it. The other thing I wanted to talk about is one of the questions was, why would you do this now in the middle of this pandemic?
It's a very good question, and we're taking a lot of heat for it. And I understand, this situation makes people, desperate, especially those who are on the line, on the front lines, the healthcare workers and the emergency workers. They're going through a lot of stress. Anybody who has been affected directly, whether they have had the virus or have lost their jobs or their family has been sick, everybody's under a lot of stress. And of course, we're adding more stress by doing this. Unfortunately, what we do is prescribed by law. The assessment calendar is part of the law, and until that law changes, we cannot just, take action to try to help people out. We have to follow the law and do our jobs. Now, if the law changes, then of course we would follow the new law and act accordingly. But until that happens, we must continue. These notices were supposed to be out a month ago, in order to provide for a more relaxed, if I may say, informal review process, giving us time to investigate, inspect if we need to, before we file the tentative roll June 1st. But because of this situation, we delayed it, since nobody had an idea that this was going to go down as it has been. So we had to get going in order to meet the calendar, and that's why the notices went out last week. In retrospect, maybe we should have sent them out a month ago and dealt with it. However, we're trying to do the best we can by using technologies. We hope that many people avail themselves of this informal review. Of course, we are inundated with calls, and we are talking to everyone and answering emails and trying to also make adjustments accordingly.
So let me just say that after the notices were printed, and I don't know if it was exactly when they were in the mail or on their way to the mail, the governor issued an executive order which gave municipalities the ability to extend the day that we could file the tentative assessment roll by up to 3 days. And I believe that that's something that the board would probably look favorably upon, if that was something that your office can handle, which I'm confident you're going to say yes to that, Fernando.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that what we're going to do is offer to buy back that 1 month that we took away from waiting and seeing, and put it on the other end so that we can give people a little bit more leeway in scheduling those informal reviews with Tyler, and or speaking with your office, making sure that in fact the assessments are correct and that they match up with properties as they should. And so that would then mean that we push back our grievance day. So we would have we push back the the filing of the tentative assessment roll from June 1st to
June 30th.
to June 30th. Okay, from
Yes.
June 30th. And then we would push the grievance date to July 21st.
Correct, yes.
And that would work for everybody.
That would work.
Okay.
We would still, we would, the Board of Assessment Review then has to process the grievances and render a decision and provides the information to us so that we can file the final roll by September 15th.
The executive order also did give you discretion to extend the filing of the final roll by 30 days.
Okay. I don't think we would need that, but if we do, we will certainly.
It's available to you as an option.
I'm just going to pull the board to make sure that everybody's on the same page, although I know you're all going to say yes. So I'll just go around to Councilwoman Shaw. Would you be in favor of extending those dates?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Feldman?
Yes.
Councilman Wiltshire?
Yes.
Councilman Meyer?
Yes.
So that's something that we have time to add to our next meeting. Our next regular meeting, we would adopt a resolution to extend those dates. And I think we could inform the public prior to that, even as long as we're all on the same page. Council O'Donnell, is there anything you wanted to add to that before I just ask our board members if they have any questions for Fernando?
No, I think the executive order pretty clearly allowed for these relief, contemplating circumstances similar to what we're seeing in Ossining. And so if the town board is willing to avail itself to that, while it appears. And, given the timing of everything and the fact that Fernando was coming tonight, it seemed a little premature to put something on the agenda, but if the board is in agreement, which it appears that the board is, then I think you can certainly begin operating under that understanding of the June 30th tentative roll until the board's next meeting where you can formally adopt a resolution.
Okay.
Okay, great. Hopefully the sooner we get the word out, which will basically extend the time that we have available for informal reviews. And let me point out that we have schedules available for 2.5 weeks, which is from now until May 12th, which can be extended as required by Tyler. We already have close to 200 appointments scheduled. And of course, many people have discussed their assessment with my assistant, Al Closey, and myself as well. And after that, of course, they will have the option to proceed with an administrative review by the Board of Assessment Review by filing a grievance, in this case, by July 21st.
Okay. Wonderful. Then the other question I forgot to ask you before was that this information is available in PDF form, and I think that I'd asked the question about could it be available in Excel, and you said that it's easier and searchable in PDF. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we have posted on the town's website the 2020 reappraisal project. Not only the sales, residential and commercial by street name, which will, of course, also show the neighborhoods. And we have also posted the change of assessments by name and by street name, so that you can, if you want to see how your street or how your neighbor's assessment and compare to that, you can see that, and that's also posted on the website, and of course the neighborhood adjustment. Also, you can go to the same town's website, the GIS website. You can search a specific property and then change the map layer to sales, and you can see sales around your home, for example. And they are color coded. Green means within the last year, I think brown is 2 years, etc. But that'll give you a good sense of what's have sold. And many people know what homes have sold, near them. And that is a good source of information. And also, when you pull your property information or any property information, you can look at the property record card with the specific inventory of the property and the assessment for this year.
Okay. Okay, I'd just like to open it up to my board colleagues to ask Fernando any particular question that you may have been getting, because I know that everybody's getting questions. So this would be a good time for you to have just a chance to ask Fernando. And then as far as our Zoom audience at our meeting, we will have an opportunity at the end of the meeting, which is not very long, for visitor recognition, at which point, if you have questions you would like to ask, I think we'll probably take a few questions at the end as well. I don't know if we're going to be able to give answers, but we'll do our best.
One of the most common questions that I've been getting is what is, with the market going down. So I would just want to reiterate that it's my understanding that any fluctuations in the market due to this pandemic will be caught on our next regular appraisal or reassessment, which would be in July. So the tax rolls will be updated again this coming July 1st and will hopefully capture any changes that the market bears, correct?
That is correct. The valuation date for the roll is July 1st of the prior year. So for the 2020 roll, the valuation date is July 1st of 2019. So for the 2021 roll, it would be July 1st of 2020. So, whatever happens in the market between now and July 1st would be captured for the next roll. Which, we are all concerned and, to see what's going to happen here. If we can get back to some sense of normalcy.
Councilman Feldman, do you have two audios going at the same time, because you're very echoey? I don't know if you have a phone and a video audio going at the same time.
Nope, just a phone.
Okay. And also, just to point out, Fernando, you mentioned that rates go, if values go down, rates go up. But also, if you're all taking the same portion of the pie, so shrink a little bit, but everybody's sort of taking that same portion, it doesn't necessarily mean your taxes are going to go up. So if you're paying
Correct.
a certain amount of taxes this year and everybody's value goes down sort of proportionately, your taxes aren't going to go up more. They're going to just sort of remain the same. Again, proportionately,
Proportionally.
Some neighborhoods may go down more than other neighborhoods based on, some of the factors that you discussed earlier. But if everything were to just sort of crash at the same time, that's what it would look like. It wouldn't look like your taxes going sky high or coming way down just because your property value had decreased.
Yes, that is correct. So basically, as I say now, that the average increase is 5%, and anyone who saw a 5% or less increase in assessed value should not see an increase in taxes, provided the budgets remain the same. The contrary of that is, if everybody went down by 10%, then everybody kept the same share of the tax burden. However, if you only went down by 2%, then of course you may see a slight increase in taxes. So it's again, what taxes you pay are not only impacted by your assessment and budgets, but also other property assessments as well.
So
Sorry.
what you're saying is even if everybody's assessment went up 5%, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to have a bigger tax bill, because it's the same. As long as it went up exactly proportionally, then it would be the tax of the pie that they would be owed, and we are not changing our budget based on the assessments. We change our budget based on our needs and try very hard not to. So it's not that all of a sudden there's, this much more money and the town gets more money. We're still asking for still have the same needs, not raising tax. It's just a portion different evaluation. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Shaw, did you have any questions?
Yeah, Fernando, can you just go over one more time if someone wants to grieve, what the process is, who they call, that kind of thing?
Okay. Of course, we want people to have and avail themselves to an informal review with Tyler Technologies. The notices that were sent out included a checklist, which had a number where to call. Here, the number is 800-829-4235, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can also schedule an appointment through the internet by going to www.tylertech.com/schedule. All that information is on the package that we sent to the property owners with the preliminary change of assessment notice. It's called the Informal Review Guidelines, which explains what to do and what we're looking for. After the informal review, if you are not satisfied with the decision, which you will be notified prior to filing the tentative roll, which most likely will be June 30th, you will have the opportunity to file a grievance to seek administrative review by the Board of Assessment Review, and that will be by filing the RP 524 form, which you can get through our website or through the state website. And you must file the grievance. By July 21st, which, once the board approves the change for the tentative roll. Again, we encourage people to meet with Tyler and discuss their assessment and try that first.
Thank you.
Also as a reminder, if you can have your representative contact Tyler if you so desire. Of course, we would rather deal with the property owner, but if you have a representative, whether it's an attorney or not, we'll be happy to discuss it with your representative as long as they are authorized by you.
Do you need a representative?
No, you don't need a representative. No.
Would you do better with a representative?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
A representative is supposed to be an expert in real estate, so if he or she will understand what comparables are and the date range and how to make the proper adjustments.
Okay. Councilman Wiltshire,
Yes.
did you have any questions for Fernando, or anybody ask any questions that you wanted to ask him?
No, I don't.
Okay, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Meyer.
Yeah, my only concern is that even with the July date, I just worry that we still may not know exactly what the real estate market's looking like. But I think it's important for people at home to understand that, we're, that's kind of the end date of when we're able to push it back to. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, what the real estate market is looking like in the next few months is not a factor. That would be a factor for next year's roll. Of course, based on what is going on right now, we're making preparations as the governor authorized us to conduct the bar proceedings via Zoom or technology, not by people coming to town hall. So we would set up this whole process and announce it shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I was unmuted. Okay. So I think that Fernando, unless you had anything else you wanted to add, or I don't know if Steve ever came, I didn't see his name, but if you wanted to say anything about Tyler, or the methodology, or anything like that, because I know a lot of people have questioned it and had some not such nice things to say about Tyler. If you wanted to say anything at all about the methodology, Steve, I would give you an opportunity to do that now before we continue on with the rest of our meeting.
Hello, Steve. Are you there?
I didn't see his name, but it could be a phone number.
We have one here, not sure.
Do we know? I don't know. Can you raise their hand virtually?
I'm unmuting whoever is dialing in, so if you could just say who you are, maybe. Nope,
Is that 845 number? I don't know.
I don't think so.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We don't have Steve. I don't know. Fernando, did you want to talk at all about anything about the methodology? I think you kind of hit most of it, but I don't know if you wanted to talk about their computer models or anything like that. I mean, again, I think you talked about the general information. You don't have to go back over anything you've already stated.
No, basically, this is a process that is considered best practices. And before we went ahead and made these changes and sent out the notices, all this data on sales and values are sent to the state of New York, which oversees this process, and they run their own processes and models to determine whether our values meet the threshold in order to certify the 100% full market value for the town of Ossining. And that is part of the process that is required. So again, this is considered best practices. And as you know, many people talk about Tyler, but the reality is that they are the leading company that does this kind of work, not only in the state of New York, but in the United States and Canada as well.
And then it also does go to ORPS to get
Yes.
a blessing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole file,
right?
Every property record, sales, and everything we did is verified by the state in New York in order to give us the certification of 100%. And also, let me point out that the staff, the majority of the staff that has worked on this project is also worked with us during the last 5 years, 6 years. Steve Besio, who's supposed to be on the call with us, has been working with us every year. Salim Serda, the project director, has been working with us also the last 5 years. And many of the data collectors, appraisers, and reviewers also have a lot of experience in Ossining and are very knowledgeable of the real estate market in Ossining.
Okay. Great. Well, I thank you for that. And I think that is it for our departmental report for this evening, one of the longest yet. Thank you for the details. And,
thank you. I keep breaking records.
You do, really. Okay, so next up we have liaison reports. Any board members liaison to anything that want to make any mention of anything?
Well, I did want to, thank our fire department and especially our ambulance corps for all that they're doing and going through now. And the parade was great today. It was good to see all the teachers and our first responders escorting them. Just thank you, and just appreciate all that they do. I just want to give them a shout out. Same with all our essential workers. I mean, they really all deserve a shout out. So that's that.
Okay. And next we have public comment on agenda items only. And again, at the bottom of your screen, I believe, or depending on what kind of screen you have, there's a place where you can actually raise your virtual hand, not your live hand, because most of you are on muted video. If you have a question on any of the agenda items, so that's any of the A, B, C, D, can't exactly see all of it, E, or anything else that we're going to be voting on, if you could raise your hand. And Victoria Caffarelli will unmute you.
Don't see any right now, but yes, just as a reminder, if you're on a computer screen, the raise your hand button should be at the bottom of your screen. If you're on an iPhone or an iPad, it's in the upper right-hand corner. There's 3 little dots. It says more, and then it says to raise your hand. But I am not seeing anybody raising their hand at this time.
Okay. So thank you for that. And just double checking. I can also figure out if you push participants on, for me on my Mac for whatever reason, if I click on participants, then it lists everybody on the side of the screen, and at the bottom of that screen is a place where you can raise your hand. I'm just going to tell you because that's different on my screen. Okay. So next up, we are going into our board resolutions, and I would ask that our deputy clerk, Martha Kusaka, please help us reading through these resolutions.
Okay, approval of minutes, regular meeting, April 14th, 2020. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the April 14th, 2020 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Fantastic.
Approval of voucher detail report, April 28th, 2020. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated April 20th, 2020 in the amount of $297,163.72.
Motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you.
Tax payment plan to 2 Waller Avenue. Whereas the town of Austin is required to collect town, county, and school taxes for the municipality with the uncollected taxes. And whereas the receiver of taxes has been approached by property owner requesting a short-term payment plan for the property of 2 Waller Avenue, tax personal designation ID number 97.7-3-5, and whereas the town board pursuant to Article 5 of the Austin Town Code as authorized by Section 1184 of the New York Real Property Tax Law before entering a final judgment may withdraw a parcel for which payment of real property tax is delinquent from a foreclosure proceeding and enter into an installment plan for payment of all delinquent taxes as well as interest and penalties, and does occasionally grant such a plan and has the discretion to accept or reject any proposal by a residential property owner, providing the owner meets the eligibility requirements set forth in Section 180-17 of the Town Code, and the payment plan conforms to the requirements for such a repayment plan set forth in Section 180-18 of the Town Code. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Austin hereby grants the aforementioned payment plan, which terms comply with the Town Code, to this property owner who has been determined to be eligible, with the understanding that this sets no precedent going forward for this or any other property in the future.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So from time to time, our tax receiver requests that the town board enter into a payment plan with a taxpayer who may be on their way to having their home foreclosed upon by the town. That is the case for the property owner at 2 Waller Avenue. So we are happy to be able to offer this payment plan to recoup unpaid taxes while also allowing this property owner to keep ownership of their property. Thank you to our tax receiver, Holly Perlowitz, for helping out her taxpayers while still keeping the payments coming in to the town. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Moving on.
Um, Opting into Westchester County tax program established by Executive Order 202.2022. Whereas in April 2020, Governor Cuomo issued Executive Order related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Martha, we can't hear you when you get too close to the screen for some reason. Like you get very muffled. Can you just, I don't know why. Yeah, that's better. I don't, for whatever reason, when you move closer to your screen, it's hard to hear you. So if you could just
Okay,
start
I'll
out
go
there.
there.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Oh, see right there, that's not good. That's good.
Hold on.
Sorry, I
I'm
don't
on
know
a new
why.
computer today. I'm on a new computer,
Okay.
so that made me feel me out.
Okay,
give me a second.
thank you. Okay.
Okay, so on the beginning.
Okay.
Opting into Westchester County tax program established by Executive Order 202.22. Whereas in April 20th, 2020, Governor Cuomo issued Executive Order 202.22 related to the COVID-19 pandemic that included, at the request of Westchester County Executive Latimer, the suspension of real property tax law 1512 parentheses 1 and Westchester County Tax Law 283.291 and 283.221 to the extent necessary to allow relief from certain requirements related to the town, city, and county taxes due on April 30th, 2020, EO 202.22N. Whereas EO 202.22 authorizes the town supervisor to waive the penalties for late payment of town and county taxes for payments made by July 15th, 2020, if the taxpayer qualifies for hardship due to COVID-19 based upon the criteria established by County Executive Latimer, hardship waiver, and whereas a hardship waiver complements the law passed by the County Board of Legislators on April 17, 2020, in which the town understands will be signed into law by County Executive Latimer, which law amends Westchester County Tax Law Statute 283.221 to substantially reduce the penalties for late payment of town and county taxes for payments received by July 15, 2020 for all taxpayers, regardless of whether the taxpayer qualifies for the hardship waiver. And whereas Executive Order 202.22 also authorizes County Executive Latimer to negotiate with individual cities and towns which are required by law to provide 60% of the county tax warrant to the county by May 25th, 2020, to provide a lesser percentage of the county tax warrant by May 25, 2020, provided the municipalities making the hardship waiver available to its eligible taxpayers, county payment negotiation, and whereas while the town does not yet know if it will need to avail itself of the county payment negotiation, the town board desires to reserve its right to do so if need be, based upon the town's financial circumstances as the May 25th, 2020 deadline approaches. And now therefore be resolved, the town board hereby adopts the hardship waiver established by Executive Order 202.22 and authorizes the supervisor, the town receiver of taxes, and necessary town staff and officers to establish and implement a procedure for the administration of the hardship waiver in the town. And be it further resolved, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to notify the county executive's office of the town's preliminary intention to participate in the county payment negotiation, the necessity of which the town shall continue to evaluate as the May 25th, 2020 deadline approaches.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor, if I
Yes.
could just, could we do a friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment, yes. That county executive did actually
Yes,
sign.
since
the Board of
this
Legislators.
resolution was drafted, and I just confirmed on his website, the law that reduces the interest rates for everyone, the penalties for everyone through July 15th was indeed signed into law.
Yes, I believe that happened on Monday, and we're coming up with a plan that helps all taxpayers, even if they can't or don't seek to prove hardship, as well as those who, in fact, can prove hardship to waive penalties entirely as long as you pay by July 15th. So as mentioned before, I think I took you through all the details, and the details have also been outlined in the resolution. There is more information on our town website about this, and you can feel free to reach out to our office at 762-6001 if you cannot find that information and would like to. But once again, we ask that you, if you are going to be taking advantage of the hardship waiver, that you turn your form in to certify that you fulfill the necessary requirements to obtain it with your tax payment by July 15th. if you don't and you pay your taxes late, you're going to pay those very reduced penalties. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As
As
amended.
amended. Anybody opposed? Wonderful. Very grateful to be able to partner with our friends in the county to offer that to everybody. Okay, so next up we are on resolution E.
Amending payment plan for delinquent taxes at 48 Gordon Avenue. Whereas, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the related restrictions on business operations, many taxpayers are suffering financial hardship due to the loss of employment and/or other income. And whereas, as a result, the federal and New York State governments have extended the deadline for filing income tax returns and, if applicable, paying the outstanding amount owed until July 15, 2020, and the New York State and Westchester County governments have eliminated or substantially reduced the penalties on late payment of town and county real property taxes for payments received by July 15, 2020. And whereas pursuant to Real Property Tax Law Statute 1184 and Town Code Chapter 180, Article 5, the town is authorized to enter into agreements for payment plans with taxpayers delinquent on the real property taxes and requires monthly payments in order to satisfy the outstanding real property tax obligation. And whereas the town board previously authorized the town receiver of taxes to enter into a payment plan with the owner of 48 Gordon Avenue, Austin, New York, the property, for the payment of delinquent real property taxes. And whereas the property owner contacted the town receiver of taxes and advised that they are suffering financial hardships due to the COVID-19 pandemic and requested a modification of the payment plan to delay the deadline of payments to be made under the plan. And whereas while the town does not generally entertain modifications to the payment plans, it is not obligated to do so under law due to the extraordinary and unprecedented circumstances surrounding the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the fact that action has been taken at the federal, state, and county levels to eliminate or substantially reduce the burden on taxpayers to pay income and real property taxes until July 15, 2020, the town board believes it is appropriate and warranted in this situation to provide the property owner with relief in line with that provided at the higher levels of government. And now, therefore, be it resolved upon the owner of 48 Gordon Avenue submitting a signed hardship certification in the form provided by the town based upon the criteria established by the Westchester County Executive, the town board hereby authorizes the town receiver of taxes to enter into an amended agreement for a payment plan for the delinquent real property taxes for 48 Gordon Avenue, which agreement shall make the deadline for the next payment July 15, 2020, and subsequent payments shall be made on or before the 15th of every month thereafter until the outstanding obligation has been satisfied. And be it further resolved, the town board is authorizing this action based upon the extraordinary and unprecedented circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic and the actions taken at the federal, state, and county level to alleviate tax burdens on taxpayers until July 15, 2020, and this authorization should not establish a precedent for this property owner or any other property owners going forward in seeking relief from their delinquent tax payment plan obligations or general tax obligations. And be it further resolved, in authorizing this action, the town board does not waive any rights or remedies available to it under the original payment plan, state law, or local law, and hereby expressly reserves the right to take any action or utilize any remedies and enforcement mechanisms available to the town under the law at any time in the future.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So our receiver of taxes was also approached by a property owner that currently has a payment plan because they recently lost their primary source of income as a result of COVID-19. So following the model from our state and federal governments, we have decided to offer this taxpayer the opportunity to delay payment until July 15th, much in line with the hardship waiver, provided that they can certify hardship in accordance with the criteria set forth by the county executive. Any questions or further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Fantastic. Next up, correspondence to be received and filed. We have none. And so we get to our visitor recognition, at which point we are going to ask you to limit your recognized responses to 4 minutes, as we usually do. And if you could again find the raise hand feature on the app, the Zoom app, and raise your hand if you would like to speak, and then Victoria Caffarelli will unmute you in the order in which you raise your hands. Don't all raise your hands at once. I see that we have some members of our village board have joined us. Some have come and some have gone, but thank you for doing that. We appreciate it, and we know that you've also been getting very many questions. So please feel free, if you do have any additional questions, to ask them now. And
Oh, yeah,
do we have somebody?
we do. Hold on, sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
Trustee Lopez.
I think you are unmuted.
Good evening, council. How are y'all?
Good, and how are you, Mr. Lopez?
Well, thank you very much. So I have two items that I wanted to bring to your attention. First, I appreciate the update from Mr. Gonzalez on the reassessment. The information will go out to the community, and I'm sure folks will find it helpful. I do want to underscore a lot of the messages that I've gotten have been not only in terms of the content of the reassessment, which Mr. Gonzalez spoke to this evening, but also in terms of the process and communication. And there's a lot of pain and indignation in the community right now with respect to this. And I recognize that there's a lot that's out of our hands in terms of the law. What my hope is that moving forward, should something like this happen again, that there is a lesson learned by all of us, and I'll include myself as part of this, as a person that can share information with the public about how some of the things that we need to do as municipalities to move forward may negatively impact folks, or maybe land in a way that's not great, or whatever else. My main point being, could we have seen this coming? What could we learn from this for next time as folks in the public? So that's number one. Respond if the spirit moves you or not. But I did want to pass on the feelings that I've been getting from folks. And number two is wondering if you had any updates to any of the questions that I asked recently on the website, the town website, with respect to minutes and agendas and things like that.
That's actually, I'm going to leave that to Victoria Caffarelli, because I know that we were trying to get some answers to those
Yeah,
questions.
sure. So all of the most recent minutes that have been approved, except for the minutes that were just approved minutes ago by the town board, have been posted to the town website. I apologize, we were a little bit behind on that. We are exploring some new options for our website. I was hoping those would come online a little bit sooner than they have, of course, because of the situation we're in now. Some of those projects have been put to the back burner. We're hoping that when we can make those improvements, some of these items will be more accessible to the town, to the residents of the town and anybody who's interested in looking at them. If I remember correctly, I don't have your email right in front of me, but you were looking for some of the work session agendas. Those are posted on the website. If there's something that you're looking for, you can certainly feel free to reach out to me and I can share that with you. But all of the agendas are posted the Friday night before for work sessions or town board meetings. So if there was something that you might have had a little bit of a hard time locating, just reach out to me and I'm happy to help.
Thank you kindly.
And as far as lessons learned, in terms of sensitivity to public situations, I'm sure that we can all learn lessons. And I do know that we had been doing our very best to keep the public apprised of the timing of all of this. Of course, it is unfortunate, but as you heard, we did have deadlines to continue to meet that were only extended, I think, really as of last week's executive order, which gave us the opportunity to push back the filing of the tentative roll. So we were doing our best to be sensitive. Sometimes that can backfire on you, in which case, somebody might think it did, because if we had actually come out with this earlier, but that could have also just been as bad or worse. So it's hard to know. Hindsight is 2020. We can always do better in communication. There is no doubt about that. I can't imagine anybody ever thinking that they do a perfect job of communicating, but we do try our best with a variety of forms, and we'll continue to do so. And we appreciate all the help that Village gives to the town, and hopefully we give that right back to you.
Of course. One last piece that I want to add as an addendum is that I saw the video that you recorded in the fall with Mr. Gonzalez about this project and found it quite helpful. And I only found out about the video after folks got the letter. And so, and this was before I got into office, and so we didn't have the same kind of communication then. But if there's anything like that, I'm eager to push it out so that folks are aware of the work that y'all are doing to get the word out.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I did say, like you said, we did do a video in the fall. We've been talking about this for over a year, but most people don't pay attention to us until the actual assessment comes. And like we said, we've been working on this for over a year, and we can't stop the timing, as unfortunate as it is. But we can all assuredly work harder at getting the word out about when these things are coming, especially to our colleagues in the village, and to our taxpayers. So, lessons learned.
Anybody else would like to raise a hand or looking for hand raising? Okay. Want to just
Any more hands?
no more hands, right?
No
Okay.
more.
All right. Fantastic. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for their participation in this meeting, for taking the time to listen this evening. I'm hoping the fact that there were not a lot of people who stayed on till what I don't think is that much of a bitter end, since it was probably only 10 additional minutes, that you got a lot of your questions answered by Mr. Gonzalez tonight. I appreciate, Fernando, your time, taking the time to kind of take us all through the process again. And again, we can try to do, if we continue to get a lot of questions that seem to be the same types of questions, I was thinking of just pulling out that segment of the meeting and seeing if we could make that just a separate YouTube video to make it easy to share. Again, Trustee Lopez, that might be another way. I know you're still listening, to share out the information of some of the frequently asked questions that we get about the process and how we went through it. And I think maybe that would be a good idea. And we can think about, if there continue again to be many more questions after tonight, other ways to get that information out as well. So thank you again, one and all. Thanks to everybody for your patience, your tolerance. We know that it is such a hard time right now. We continue to lose people in our midst every day that make an impression on us, that we love, who we don't know, but are, we know that they're not able to be with their loved ones right now. And our hearts go out to everybody right now, muddling through this very, very, very difficult time. We just hope you get a chance to appreciate a few of the silver linings. We know that there are a few silver linings along the way. And I know that for myself, that just, except for tonight when they were eating loudly in the background, I have been able to eat dinner with my family literally almost every single night. And that is a blessing. And I hope that all of us have some of those blessings as well. Have a wonderful week. We will see you next week. I'd like to take a motion to adjourn into executive session for contracts. I don't think we have any personnel items this evening, and I think council. And that would be it for that motion. Anybody?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Have a wonderful weekend. We will see you back at the same Zoom Bat channel next week for our work session Tuesday evening at 7:30. Good night.